Before this video starts, if you enjoyed this video, there are many more like it already on the channel with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I am trying to hit 125,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I'd really appreciate it. I upload daily on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Also, real quick, if this topic interests you, I have a video over on my film channel about the debate between who is the better Spider-Man between Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland. So if that sounds like something you'd like to watch, that is going to be linked in the description, card above, pinned comment, all of that. With LeBron James hoisting up his 4th championship like a week and a half ago, the obligatory GOAT debate has come up once more, and that's a debate that I have no interest in having because it has not only been ran into the ground, it's been ran into the Earth's core. You cannot beat a dead horse if that horse's skeleton has disintegrated into dust. However, a part of this discussion that did interest me was that there was actually an argument about LeBron's competition in these finals because this was probably the worst team that he has beaten in the finals. This particular conversation came from the fact that LeBron fans over the years have made the claim that Jordan only has his finals record because he has basically had a cakewalk in the finals every year, whereas LeBron has had to run into basically a juggernaut every year. There is obviously some hyperbole in that, but I do want to make it clear that by no means do I feel that Michael Jordan has had it tougher in the finals than LeBron James, or even as tough, or even close to as tough. LeBron has had a rough go of it in the finals to no fault of his own. I think the criticism of LeBron's finals record is rather stupid. However, I also think that LeBron fans can take this discussion in a bad direction the other way when saying that Jordan just basically had a cakewalk every year. Because, well, he just didn't. However, I also feel that there are some Michael Jordan fans that push it to a point where they act like he just had a ridiculous matchup all 6 finals, which he also didn't. So how good was Michael Jordan's finals competition? Let's find out.
Saved! Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop!
I also do want to make the quick point, which won't really matter, but I just want to make it clear that there is more to a finals run and a championship run than just the finals. However, it's the thing that's always in the back of people's heads when referencing a year because the finals are, well, final. It's in the name. That's why people remember the Warriors blowing a 3-1 lead more than they remember them coming back from a 3-1 lead literally the round previous. So the point is that the playoff rounds up until a finals appearance matters, and even what happens in the regular season matters on the path to a championship. However, we are going to be putting that to the side and just focusing on the finals themselves. Let's start in 1991. The Chicago Bulls have finally eclipsed the bad boy Pistons in a sweep, but this does not matter because we're only talking about the finals. In the finals, they meet the Showtime Lakers, but really it was more like the cable daytime talk show Lakers. Don't get me wrong, the team was still very good, but by no means was this the Lakers in their prime. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was retired, and he was replaced by some solid players like Sam Perkins and Vlade Divac. However, I also want to make the point that the Showtime Lakers, even outside of their prime, are still a very good team. By very good, I mean the team got 58 wins and was top 5 in both offense and defense, which, for the record, is the same record that the 2013 Spurs had, with the Spurs being just 7th in offensive rating that year. Also the same win percentage as the 2012 Thunder, with them being 2nd in offense, but 11th in defense. So the point is, while the Lakers were not at their absolute peak at this point, it's still not a bad team. Just because Kareem's gone does not neglect the fact that you have a prime Magic Johnson and James Worthy on the same team with a good supporting cast. Also, going into this series, there was not a clear favorite because while pretty much everybody considered the Bulls to be a better team, the fact that the Lakers, and particularly Magic Johnson and James Worthy, had won multiple championships together gave people reason to believe that experience would be a factor. However, it was not, as the Bulls won this series in 5 games. But it was also not like the easiest gentleman sweep ever. There were a lot of close games in there. Next year, they played the Portland Trailblazers. This team won 57 games, were 7th in offense and 3rd in defense. This team was built around Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Cliff Robinson, and some good role players and defensive players. This team, I'd say, was worse than the 91 Lakers, and honestly, probably the worst team that the Bulls played in the finals, so I won't go in much depth with this one. While this series did go to 6 games rather than 5 with the Lakers, I really just feel like I just don't believe this Blazers team was really that great. Maybe that's just me not having seen them live, but when I look at them on paper, I am not impressed whatsoever. So then we get on to 1993. The Phoenix Suns are a 62-win team with the #1 offense in the league, the #9 defense, and they were led by MVP Charles Barkley, who just had the best season of his career, averaging 26, 12, and 5. And there were good supporting pieces like Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson, Richard Dumas, Tom Chambers, with the team being coached by Paul Westphal. Easily the best team the Bulls had faced to this point. This series went 6 games, with the Bulls winning each of their 4 games by an average of just 4.5 points per game, despite the fact that Michael Jeffrey Jordan averaged 41. Wait, that's an error, right? That says 41 points a game. Basketball Reference must be broken. No, that is in fact real. Michael Jordan averaged that many points. The Suns had a real chance to actually win this series. Michael Jordan just said, fuck you, I'm the greatest player of all time and one of my best seasons ever, so I'm just gonna average 41 points in the finals like an absolute madman. Then we have to skip forward 2 years. Michael Jordan was busy sucking at baseball as well as accumulating more gambling debt, so we get to the 1996 finals. Obviously, the Bulls just came into this finals having set the record for wins with 72 wins in their regular season, so naturally you'd assume this would be the biggest cakewalk for Jordan. However, this wasn't the case at all. In fact, I think, and I do know this is a hot take, that if the Sonics just made one simple adjustment, they would have pulled off the greatest upset in NBA history. Now, I made a whole video on why I believe the Sonics are the most underrated team of the 1990s. I will try and link that somewhere, although let's be honest, I'll just forget about it. So just Google Rusty Bucket Sonics. I mean, only that video is going to pop up because I don't make a whole lot of videos on the Seattle Supersonics. But the Sonics won 64 goddamn games, led by Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp, as well as a good supporting cast. They were 8th in offense and 2nd in defense. And speaking of that defense, in this series, when MJ was guarded by Gary Payton, he played like shit. When he was guarded by the 6'1" Hersey Hawkins, he absolutely destroyed him. This is easily the worst finals performance of Jordan's career. However, it could have been a lot worse if not for a huge mistake from the head coach of the Sonics, George Karl. He decided to have Gary Payton put more of his focus on offense due to him managing an injury, and as a result, Jordan was allowed to have big games when he could have been slowed down, and that would have made the difference in the series. I genuinely think if Payton was allowed to guard Jordan from the first possession of this final series to the last, they would have won. And that would be an interesting situation because Michael Jordan would have just been on a team that had 72 wins and then lost, even though it was a 64-win team. But also, how much higher all time would Gary Payton be just from that one finals performance? Like beating the 72-10 Bulls, shutting down the greatest player who's ever played the game, and winning a championship. And finals MVP, I assume, along the way. That's an interesting hypothetical right there. But that is easily the best opponent the Bulls faced, and I was just going to say till now, but that's definitely the best opponent the Bulls faced in the finals. Their defense was just ridiculous, and Gary Payton is underrated. Then we get to the Utah Jazz, the only team that the Bulls played in the finals twice. I guess I should just put it out there right out of the jump that I'm not exactly loved by Utah Jazz fans, especially older Utah Jazz fans who watched the team back in the 80s and the 90s. Because as for the core of this Jazz team that faced the Bulls of John Stockton and Karl Malone, well, I've called John Stockton the most overrated player in NBA history, which I still stand by the way. Normally my takes have like a 3-day shelf life before I hate them, but I'm actually sticking with that one. I still strongly agree with that. I realize I'm saying that I strongly agree with myself, but I almost always don't after a couple of months, so this is not normal. And as for Karl Malone, well, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about him on the court. I have everything negative to say about him off of the court. It's fuck Karl Malone today, as it will be every day until the end of time. And with me thinking so little of one half of this duo, as you can guess, I'm lower on this team than most. That being said, Karl Malone is probably the third best player to match up with the Bulls in the finals behind Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley in '93. There's a debate between Barkley and Malone all time, but just like '93 Barkley I think was better than '97 or '98 Malone. And on top of that, this was a well-coached and well-rounded team that won 64 games in '97 and 62 games in '98. So this team is still pretty good. Right after the Suns and the Sonics, I would probably put the Utah Jazz for the best finals competition for the Bulls, especially when you consider how bad the Bulls were relative to the previous 5 seasons in 1998. In fact, I would like to point out, as people seem to forget, that the Chicago Bulls were not favored in that series because the Bulls looked so rough all year, people thought this was finally Utah's year, and obviously that was not the case. Supported a pedo and you still couldn't get a championship. That's just tragic. So just in summary, as for Jordan's finals competition, he faced 4 60-win teams out of the 6 teams that he faced, and then on average they were 4th in offense and 7th in defense in the league each year. I'd say, relatively speaking, this is pretty good competition and it warrants plenty of respect. I don't think it's crazy good, nor do I think it should be dismissed whatsoever. I feel like Jordan was pretty middle in the pack in terms of his finals competition. His team went into 4 series as the pretty much clear favorite. In 2 of those, there was a real chance the Bulls would lose with the Sonics and Suns. But really, the Bulls just took care of business across the board. Part of the reason why Michael Jordan's finals competition looks so weak is because Michael Jordan was really good. I don't know if you knew that. As for how this compares to LeBron James in this stupid-ass debate, well, none of the teams that Jordan beat are better than the 2016 Warriors, and if Michael Jordan played the 2017 or 2018 Warriors, he would have lost too. But I also don't think the Spurs, the Thunder, or the Heat were any better than any of the teams other than maybe the Blazers that the Bulls faced in the finals. So take that for what you will. So yeah, that's that, I guess. A couple of things. Again, go check out that Spider-Man video. Also, this is the first video that Rudy has been fully editing himself. He's finally grown up, even though he's 25. Although, not helping with the height. I should probably not talk shit because he can change the edit of this video. But his link is going to be in the description to his channel. He's going to hopefully be producing content. I don't know. He hasn't entirely informed me. Go check him out. He has some stuff up right now and maybe eventually soon later. What else? Did I say Spider-Man video already? I think I did. Oh, Patreon. I keep forgetting to promote that. If you want to support this content outside of just your like and subscription, I do have a Patreon where you can go give me money. You'll get some extra content over there. So if that's something that interests you, go check that out. But with that all out of the way, that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.